I will never forget the sound of the wrapping paper tearing. It was the only thing anyone could hear. No music, no laughter, just that quiet crinkle as my daughter Ka carefully unwrapped her gift. Her tiny fingers tugging at the corners like it was the most precious thing in the world. And for a second, she actually smiled. That soft, hopeful kind of smile kids get when they think magic might still be real. But when she opened the box, her whole face shifted. Confusion first, then a flicker of something deeper, hurt, maybe. Her little shoulders stiffened and she glanced at me. The box was empty. I saw it before she even said a word, just a plain cardboard bottom. No tissue paper, no toy, not even a note, just nothing. I blinked, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. Was it a mistake? Did something fall out? Maybe someone forgot to pack it. But before I could open my mouth, I heard him. My father, Frank. He let out this sharp laugh, short and cold like a bark in winter. He sat back in his armchair, folded his arms and said, "Kids like her shouldn't expect anything. World's got enough leeches already." My heart dropped. Ka froze. Her hands were still in the box, like maybe she just hadn't seen the gift yet, like maybe it was hiding under the flaps or tucked in the corner. But there was nothing. I felt the heat rush up my chest. My hands trembled where they rested on my lap. I wanted to say something, anything, but the words caught in my throat like splinters. Then Sandra, my sister, snorted and muttered, "She's just like her mother, always expecting handouts. Worthless." My jaw clenched. I could feel the muscles in my face tightening, the burn behind my eyes threatening to spill over. I forced myself to look at Ka. She wasn't crying. Not yet. But her lips were pressed tight and her chin was trembling the way it does right before it breaks. Her eyes, those big soft eyes, were filling with tears she was too proud to let fall. She looked at me again, not asking for help, just checking if she should pretend it didn't hurt. And in that moment, I hated myself. I hated that I'd brought her here, that I'd hoped, maybe stupidly for a normal Christmas, that I thought my father could be different, that I wanted them to see the beautiful, kind, creative girl Ka was and love her like I did. But they didn't see her. To them, she was just an extension of me, a reminder of my divorce, my failure, the mess I'd made of my life, according to them. The room was dead silent, except for the soft hum of the heater and the ticking of the grandfather clock behind Frank's chair. Each second sounded louder than the last, like it was counting down to a moment I wasn't ready for. Ka looked down at the empty box again. Her fingers brushed the edge. Then slowly, she folded the flaps shut. Her hands were shaking now. And then she whispered something. "I got you a gift too, Grandpa." Everyone turned. Frank looked up, that smug grin still on his face. "Oh yeah," he said, half laughing. "This will be good." But Ka didn't back down. She reached into the pocket of her coat and pulled out a small piece of paper, folded with such care it made my chest ache. She took a step forward and held it out to him with both hands. And right then, I knew this moment wasn't over. Something was coming, something none of us were ready for. I hadn't been home for Christmas in over 2 years, not since the divorce, not since the shame, not since everything I'd been trying to hold together finally cracked wide open. Kay. She wanted to see them. She asked me 3 weeks before Christmas, "Mom, do I have a grandpa?" That was her way of asking why we were always alone during the holidays, why we didn't have matching pajamas or giant trees or cousins to run around with. So I said yes. And when she asked if we could visit him this year, I said yes again, against my better judgment. I don't know what I expected. Maybe I thought time would have softened them. Maybe I believed just for a moment that when they saw Ka, when they really looked at her, they'd feel something. Warmth, regret, love, anything. Instead, the minute we pulled into the driveway, I felt that old weight settle back onto my shoulders. That invisible tension that coils around your ribs like barbed wire when you're trying to smile for people who don't really want you there. Their house hadn't changed. Still cold, still perfect, still spotless in that way that feels less like home and more like a museum. My mother greeted us with that plastic politeness she'd mastered over the years. A quick hug for me, soft pat, on the head for Ka. Her eyes lingered too long on the scuff marks on Kaya's boots. I saw it. How she took her in like an item on a shelf, deciding whether or not she belonged. Sandra barely looked up from her phone when we walked in. She offered Kaya a half-hearted, "Hey," then went right back to scrolling. I could already feel my stomach tightening. And then there was Frank, my father. He was in his usual chair by the fireplace, whiskey glass in one hand, TV remote in the other. Didn't even stand up, just gave a nod and muttered, "Didn't think you'd actually show up." That was his way of saying hello. Ka gave him a shy wave, her mittened fingers poking through the wool. "Hi, Grandpa," she said softly, like she was testing the word out loud for the first time. He grunted. I don't know why I still hoped for more. Maybe because Ka was trying so hard. She'd made little drawings for everyone, carefully colored, folded and tucked into envelopes with their names on the front. She even asked me how to spell to my Aunt Sandra because she wanted it to be perfect. She worked on them every night for a week. I wanted this to be special for her. I wanted her to feel like she had a family, even if they were far from perfect. I scraped together what I could from tips and extra shifts just to buy her one nice outfit, a little gift to open, and enough gas to get us there. That morning, as I tied her scarf, she looked up at me and said, "Do you think they'll like my drawings?" And I said, "Sweetheart, they're going to love them." But in the pit of my stomach, I already knew the truth. I was bringing her into a house where kindness was currency they never gave out for free, where smiles were measured and love had conditions. Still, I tried. I told myself this was about Ka, not me, that I could keep my chin up, play nice, pretend for one day that everything was okay. But as I watched her heart quietly break in front of them over something as cruel as an empty gift box, I realized they hadn't changed, and I wasn't sure they ever would. Ka handed out her little envelopes like they were treasures. She moved through, the room so gently, like she was afraid to disturb any. Each envelope had a name on the front, written in her careful, blocky handwriting. She gave one to my mother first, then Sandra, then even my brother Matt, who'd barely spoken a word since we walked in. When she got to Frank, she paused for just a second, long enough that I held my breath. But she smiled, lifted the envelope and said, "Merry Christmas, Grandpa." He didn't look up from the television, just held out a hand like she was delivering the mail, not offering a piece of herself. She moved back to the couch and sat beside me. Her face was still lit up, hopeful. She had no idea how cold the room had gotten. Then Frank picked up a large box from beneath the tree. It was wrapped in silver paper, topped with a red bow, almost too neatly. He held it out toward Ka with a grunt. Her eyes widened. "For me?" He shrugged. "Says your name, doesn't it?" She looked at me first like she needed permission. I nodded, even though something in my gut twisted. She scooted to the floor and pulled the box into her lap. Her small hands ran over the paper like it was sacred. I watched her savor every moment, the untaping of each edge, the careful unfolding. She wanted to remember it. Then the lid came off. She peered inside, and I saw it happen. The exact second she realized it was empty. Her face didn't crumple. Not right away. Instead, her eyebrows pulled together in confusion. She reached in as if something might be stuck at the bottom. She looked up at me, uncertain. There was nothing in the box. Nothing. Frank laughed loudly this time. "What? You were expecting something real," he scoffed, leaning back. "World doesn't give you gifts for just showing up, kid." Kaya blinked. Her hands froze. I couldn't move. Then, Sandra, always waiting for a moment to cut deeper, chimed in from her corner of the couch. Well, she is just like her mom, always expecting people to hand her things. It's no surprise. I felt it in my chest like a punch. I turned to her. "Sandra, don't." She raised a brow, smirking. "What?" "It's true." Ka was silent now. The box still rested. In her lap, flaps wide open, exposing the nothing inside. The room had turned on her, and I saw her realize it. I hated them. I hated them for making her feel small, for making her question her worth, for laughing like it was all a joke. I reached for her, but she didn't move. She just kept staring at the box like it might somehow fill itself if she waited long enough. Inside, I was screaming, "Say something, stand up, defend her." But I didn't want to make a scene, not in front of her. That's the thing about being in families like this. You learn to freeze when things get cruel. You learn to smile through clenched teeth. And I'd spent so many years doing just that. It almost felt normal, but it wasn't normal. Ka was only 7. She didn't know how to put on a mask yet. She didn't know how to swallow that kind of pain. Then she looked up at Frank. Her voice was quiet, barely more than a whisper, but it cut through the room like a bell. "It's okay," she said. "I got you. A gift, too, Grandpa." And just like that, the whole room shifted. No one spoke, no one laughed. She reached into her coat pocket, and I realized something was about to happen that none of them would forget. I stared at her completely still as Ka reached into her coat pocket. The room had gone silent, so quiet I could hear the faint creak of the old floorboard under the Christmas tree with every slight movement. My own breath felt too loud in my chest. She pulled out a folded piece of paper. It looked small in her hands, fragile even, like something that could be crumpled and dismissed without a second thought. But she held it like it mattered, like it meant something. I whispered, "Ka, maybe not now." She turned to me and there was something in her eyes I didn't recognize. Not sadness, not hurt, but calm, steady. She gave a little nod, the kind that said, "I have to do this." Then she turned to Frank. "I made this for you," she said. Frank didn't even lean forward. He just glanced at it with that same bored expression he always wore when someone dared ask him to feel something. "Oh, yeah," he muttered, sipping his drink. "You draw me a snowman or something?" There was sarcasm in his voice, the kind he always used when he wanted to make you feel small without raising it. But Ka didn't flinch. She walked across the room and held it out to him with both hands. That's when I noticed her fingers were shaking. I knew that feeling. The way your hands betray you when your heart's thawing in your chest, when you're trying to be brave, even though every part of you wants to run. He took it from her, like it meant nothing, slid it open with one hand while still holding his glass in the other. Then he looked down and stopped. I couldn't see what was on the paper from where I sat, but I saw his face. It didn't twist in confusion or irritation like I expected. Instead, his eyebrows drew together. He blinked once, then again. His jaw slackened just slightly, like he'd forgotten what he was doing. The entire room seemed to lean in. "What is it?" Sandra asked, impatient. He didn't answer, just stared. Kaya stood there, hands clasped in front of her now, watching him quietly, like she wasn't sure what came next either. I got up and crossed the room slowly, almost afraid to break the moment. I stepped beside her and gently placed my hand on her back. She didn't look at me. She just kept her eyes on Frank. And he looked older than I'd ever seen him. Not angry, not smug, just still. He folded the paper carefully, deliberately, almost reverently, and placed it on the side table next to his chair. Then he stood up. No one knew what to say. No one moved. He walked out of the room without a word. The sound of his footsteps down the hallway was the only thing we could hear. He didn't slam the door, didn't shout, just left. I looked down at Kai. Her voice was quiet when she asked, "Did I do something wrong?" I knelt beside her, wrapped my arms around her, and whispered, "No, sweetheart, you did something brave." Sandra muttered something under her breath, but this time, I didn't care, because I knew whatever Ka had drawn, whatever she had written, it got through to him in a way none of us ever could. She didn't fight back with anger. She didn't cry or scream or run. She gave him a gift, one that reminded him he was still human, even if he'd forgotten. And I think, just maybe, that scared him more than anything else. I didn't see my father for the rest of the day. He didn't return to the living room, didn't come back for dinner, not even when my mother called out that dessert was ready in that overly sweet tone she used when pretending everything was fine. Ka didn't mention him again that evening. She played quietly with the ribbon from one of her other small gifts and helped me fold the wrapping paper scraps like it was any other night, but I could tell her mind was somewhere else. Every now and then her eyes would wander toward the hallway where Frank had disappeared, like she was waiting for something, but nothing happened. Not that day. We left early the next morning. I told them we had plans back in the city, but the truth was I couldn't bear to spend another second pretending. Sandra didn't even get up to say goodbye. My mother handed me a foil-covered plate of leftover ham and told me to drive safe. No mention of what happened. No one asked how Kaya was doing, and that somehow hurt even more. The ride home was quiet. Kaya stared out the window, watching snow blur past the trees. I reached over and held her hand at one point. She squeezed back. I didn't bring up the drawing. I didn't want to make her explain something that was clearly so personal. I didn't want to pull apart whatever magic had lived in that moment. But I thought about it the whole drive home. What had she drawn that made my father, the man who once called me too soft for crying at a movie, turned pale and leave the room without a word? I found out 4 days later. It came in a small, unmarked box left on our porch. There was no return address, just Ka's name written in careful block letters across the top. She opened it slowly, like she wasn't sure if it was safe to hope. Inside was a tiny music box, old-fashioned, wooden, hand-carved edges with little roses painted around the lid. It played "Somewhere Over the Rainbow" when she turned the crank. And there was a note. It was just one line, handwritten in a shaky, unfamiliar scroll. "To the bravest girl I know. Thank you for remembering her." No signature, but we didn't need one. Ka clutched the box to her chest like it was made of gold. She didn't say anything at first. She just held it and smiled. I sat down next to her on the floor and finally asked, "Ka, what did you draw for Grandpa?" She looked up at me and said it was a picture of him holding hands with Grandma and me. Her voice was soft. I told him I hope he smiles again one day because I remember how she made him laugh. My throat tightened. I didn't speak. I couldn't, because that was it. That was the part of him I'd forgotten even existed. The man who once smiled, once laughed, before grief hardened him, before the years made him cruel. Ka saw through all of that and gave him a piece of something he thought he'd lost forever. Not pity, not guilt, hope. She didn't try to fix him. She just reminded him that he used to be someone worth remembering, and in return, he gave her something too. Maybe not love, maybe not forgiveness, but a beginning. And sometimes that's enough. The music box now sits on Kaya's nightstand. Every night before bed, she winds it up. Not always to listen. Sometimes she just likes to hold it, to feel its weight in her hands, to know it's there. The way a child might clutch a stuffed animal they've outgrown but still can't let go of. She hasn't said much about that day since, but every now and then she'll mention Grandma, someone she never even met, but speaks about like she's still here, like she's someone Ka knows through the stories I've told and the quiet space she left behind. And maybe she does. Frank never called. He didn't send a follow-up message. No, I'm sorry. No explanations. That's not who he is. maybe that's not who he'll ever be. But a week after the music box arrived, I got a letter. It wasn't addressed to Ka. It was for me. It was short, 3 lines written in the same uneven handwriting. I was wrong about you. She's a good kid. I hope you're doing okay. No name. But I knew, and for reasons I can't quite explain, I cried after reading it. Not because it made everything better, not because it fixed the years of silence or the way he used to look through me like I was a disappointment wearing a name tag, but because, for once it felt like he saw me. And more than that, he saw Ka. He saw what I've always known, that she's special, that she has this way of peeling back the coldness in a room and showing people their own warmth, even when they don't deserve it. She's not loud. She doesn't demand attention, but she changes things. She changed him. Not completely, but enough. Enough to make a man who'd shut the door on the world open it just a crack. Enough to make someone who believed only in toughness and silence sit down and listen to the music from a little girl's drawing. People ask me sometimes why I went back that Christmas, why I let them near her, why I didn't protect her better. And the truth is, I thought I was. I thought shielding her from their coldness would be enough. That not talking about them, not visiting, not engaging, that it would protect her heart. But Ka didn't need protection. She needed truth. She needed to meet them, to see the world for what it is, beautiful and cruel, broken and hopeful, all tangled together. And somehow, instead of getting lost in it, she decided to add her own light. She didn't need revenge. She didn't even want an apology. She just wanted to give a gift. And that gift, as simple as it was, did something I couldn't do in 30 years. It opened a door, not wide, not forever, but enough for a note to get through. Enough for a song to play in the quiet. Enough for a tired old man to remember a part of himself he thought was gone. Ka reminded me of something that day too, that sometimes kindness is the most radical act, that a whisper can carry more weight than a scream, and that when we choose love, even when it's hard, even when it's not returned, we create something no one can take away. A moment, a shift, a gift. If this story touched you, don't forget to like, share, and comment. And maybe give someone in your life the gift of a second chance today. You never know what doors it might